Yay! So I am recording on my new presentation software. I don't know if this is working on Facebook. I really hope it is. So, yeah. Tonight we're going to talk about my trip to the Haunted Museum, and it was a blast. I had the absolute best time. So, here is my presentation. About the presenter. Well, the presenter is me, so you already know who I am. These are all of my pictures of the outside. I went actually before the day I was supposed to go on my tour, and it was lit up in all red. It was so cool. Walked there in the middle of the night, by the way. So yeah, super dangerous. Don't recommend that. But for me, it was okay. The outline for tonight's presentation is going to be the man behind the museum, the building, the rooms, personal experience, and conclusion. So the man behind the museum. The man behind the museum is Travel Channel's Ghost Adventures host, Zach Bagans. And if you haven't seen it, I recommend you try watching it. It's pretty good. A little cheesy, but pretty good nonetheless. Zach got his stardom from Ghost Adventures on the Travel Channel, but he then decided to take the love of the paranormal that he has and collect objects that are purportedly haunted. And he threw them all in a museum, and that's where I went. So the building itself, Zach bought, I think it was in 2011. And it is at 600 East Charleston Boulevard in Las Vegas, Nevada. It was built in 1938 by Cyril and Lottie Wangert, and it was originally known as the Wangert Mansion. The family no longer had possession of the house, as far as I know, around like 1970s. And then there are rumors about satanic rituals taking place in the house because it changed hands a few times. And at some point in the 70s, it supposedly had satanic rituals. Now, I'm one of those people that does not think of Satanism as a bad thing. I feel like I have a pretty decent understanding of it. Now, it doesn't mean that dark things didn't take place there. I don't like calling it satanic, per se. So, after that, the Nevada State Bar took over, and they adopted the house, so to speak. The bar kind of instituted some legal center there. So there were like law offices. And then Zach bought it from the Nevada State Bar. The rooms. All right, so I have a list of the rooms here. And that's just kind of how this list is not in order, sorry. The waiting room, oddities room, doll closet, Oddfellows room and tunnel, marionette room, Kevorkian, Love Ranch bedroom, Murderabilia room, basement, Bela Lugosi's mirror, the Titanic and Natalie Wood, Demon House, Capone's study, Ed Gein room, Seance room, circus room, funhouse area, Josh Shaw, who, by the way, I loved, the Gypsy Wagon, Bob Bordella bedroom, the Dybbuk box, which we will talk more about that later. I am actually really excited to talk about that. Peggy the Doll, The Witch's Head, The Devil's Rocking Chair, and Lee Shapiro and Her Machine. Hi, my magical friends. I am here. So, sign up there. And I'm about to check in. Hi, my magical friends. So, that was a little clip that I took before I actually went in and checked in. And when I got there, I had gotten the RIP access. So I got to do some pretty cool stuff. But I also, as a part of that, was given a t-shirt. And here, I'll show it. So, pretty cool. So when you arrive, you end up in a parking lot, and they check you in outdoors, and then they kind of shuffle you into the waiting room. But before you go, you have to sign a waiver saying that you won't sue them if you end up possessed, dead, bring home an attachment, stuff like that. It was pretty interesting. But yeah, I signed it. I was a little bit confused, I guess, because I didn't think anything was going to happen. But yeah, so everybody that goes there has to sign this waiver, and you have to be above, I believe the age now is 16. It used to be 14, but now it is 16, so you can't go there if you're under 16. Because of the danger that these spirits are said to pose. The oddities room was my first stop, and the doll closet was my second stop. So it was a trip, man. When I got on site, they put me into the waiting room. So the waiting room is the only room that you're allowed to take pictures in. Otherwise, they tell you to shut your phone off. Before you even leave that room, you have to shut it down. So I took pictures in there. It was really neat. I made friends with one of the tour guides, not my tour guide, but a different tour guide. And she was really sweet. Yeah, there's like this big sign on the wall that says warning, and then it kind of warns you about like the things that you could encounter. So malevolent energies and spirits and whatnot. And then you have to take an oath before you ever leave that room. And you have to recite it out loud with your hand raised and everything. It was a trip. And then they kind of like let you self-guide around the front of the house, out the door and around the front of the house. And you arrive at the front door, and your tour guide will meet you there and let you in. So then you end up in the oddities room. That's always the first room you go to. So when I got to the oddities room, the one thing that I noticed more so than anything else was Zach's lookalike Zoltar machine, and it was just comical to me. I thought it was fun, but there's also a massive dollhouse in that room, and the dollhouse actually was featured. Zach did a collaboration with whoever the guy was that did oh no, I can't think of his name. Anyway, some movie guy he did a collaboration with, and they did like all these little stories about all these haunted objects, and actually it was pretty well done. So it's on Discovery if you want to look it up. It was pretty good. And then because I had the RIP access, I was able to go into the doll closet. Now, I don't love dolls. They creep me out a little bit. And I took notes for myself because I knew I was going to be going room by room. and I don't want to miss anything. So the doll closet. I walked into it alone, and it creeped me out, man. It really did creep me out. There wasn't really like energy, though. There was no spirit energy that I picked up on. There was no creepy crawly feelings or anything like that. The items themselves are just kind of creepy and discomforting. So that was pretty much it for the doll room. And then I went to the Oddfellows room. And there I did pick up some feelings, some weird feelings. There are actually 2 skeletons, actual human bodies, in this room. And they are in a casket, and it's really weird. But the feeling that I got in that room was just, I don't know, like you weren't alone, I guess. But the Oddfellows, if you don't know who they are, they're a pretty interesting society. The Oddfellows had a thing about mortality and death. So their new members, when they went through their like initiation rites, they had to basically kiss a skeleton to confront the idea of that mortality. And there are, like I said, 2 genuine Oddfellow skeletons on display. No, I didn't have to kiss them, so that was lovely. I did not need to do that. But one of the perks about the RIP Access badge is I was able to go through the secret tunnel. So in my pictures, you will see on the smaller of the 2, there's a little yellow arrow pointing to the wall. And in that corner, there is a secret tunnel. So you go into this tunnel, and it is pitch black. You can see absolutely nothing. You have to crawl on your hands and knees. It's not standing up at all. It's just this little hole in the wall where you like kind of crawl through this tunnel. And that in and of itself was, kind of uncomfortable, but still exciting because I was like, oh, yay, a tunnel. I love tunnels. But yeah, you don't get to go through that unless you are RIP Access. So I got to go through that. I was not going to say no to any of the RIP abilities. So they're all optional, and you can either do them or choose not to. And going in, I knew I was going to do them because, well, of course I was. So the only noteworthy vibes that I really got in that room was in the actual Oddfellow room itself. And it was kind of like this intense feeling of sadness. And like, I felt like when I wasn't alone, I started to pick up on this like other person, I guess, but it wasn't a person, it was just energy. And when I started to pick up on that, I started to feel kind of jaded. So I think I was, picking up on one of the 2 people that their bodies are there. I felt like I'd been lied to, and just sad, just hurt. So that was sucky for a second, but it came and went pretty quickly by the time I went through the tunnel. So when you come out of the Oddfellow tunnel, you go into the marionette room or the puppet room, and I hated that room. I don't do marionettes at all. Like, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. It creeped me out. the Kevorkian room. This was a good room to start off with because, well, first off, Kevorkian's from Michigan, in case you didn't know that. He was also called Dr. Death, and he was an avid supporter of physician-assisted suicide. He was a physician from Michigan, and he assisted 130 people to their right to die, basically. And a lot of these he would do out of this van. This van has a ton of energy. Initially, his attorney, Jeffrey Feiger, thought it was destroyed, but it wasn't. And actually, Zach has the title hanging on the wall with Dr. Kevorkian's actual signed name on that title. It was interesting to see. But yeah, because the practice was illegal, he kind of had to do it on the go, so to speak. And the Type 2 van, that's that VW van in my picture there, is on display. And in the back, there's this setup showing like a patient and how it would have been set up if Kevorkian were still working out of it. Yeah. The feelings that I got in this room, it was heavy. It was very heavy. It took me a second to shake it off when I left it. There aren't any conscious energies that I picked up on there. So like no actual spirit. It kind of, to me, it felt like a loop, like a death loop or an echo. And then after going to, or seeing the death van, we walked into the, well, I guess I don't remember if I put these in order or not, because I think that was later in the tour. I can't remember. Anyway, the Love Ranch bedroom. So if you've ever seen HBO's show Cat House, it's the same guy from that, the guy that runs those brothels, or ran those brothels. He's dead now. So his name was Dennis Hoff, and he ran the Bunny Ranch, the Love Ranch. He had several brothels in Vegas, or, well, not in Vegas, because in Vegas, prostitution is not legal, but in Nevada, it is. So just not in the city limits of Vegas, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Anyway. So he died in that bed. And as you go in, there's like a TV that clicks on, and Zach comes up and he's kind of telling you the history with this bed and like why it's there and whatever. So when he initially pops up, he starts talking about Lamar Odom. And Lamar Odom spent time at the Love Ranch. And when he did, he almost died in that bed, the same bed that Dennis Hoff then died in. Later, Lamar had kind of made it known that he didn't think that he had done drugs that night at all, because they had said it was an overdose. And so then he kind of made it very well known that he thought Dennis Hoff, or one of his girls, had poisoned him. That was never actually proven or looked into as far as I know. But it's a weird occurrence that, you know, two people, well, one almost died and the other one did die in that very bed. It was gross. And it's gross because, well, of course it is. But other than that, I didn't really feel anything in that room. There was almost no energy for me. So, yeah. So then we went to the murderabilia room, which I really liked that room a lot. There are so many artifacts from so many serial killers in that room. It's insane. He has got things like Ted Bundy's glasses, multiple paintings by John Wayne Gacy, and they are originals. All of these things are vetted. Charles Manson's blood painting with his cremated remains in the eyes. Yeah, his eyes are made out of Manson's actual remains. Gross, right? So he also has the Killer Santa, his actual Santa suit. So it was pretty interesting. I did feel a little bit sick to my stomach in that room, but not to the point where it really affected me super bad. It was just like upset stomach and just kind of like an overall queasiness. And I am going to just go right ahead and assume that that's not supernatural, but more associated with the fact that these people committed horrific crimes against, innocent victims. And so, yeah, I think that's why I got sick. I don't think it was anything to do with ghosts or spirits or energy or anything. Then there's the basement. So the basement, I didn't think I would feel anything because there is nothing that has been substantiated. Well, I mean, I guess there technically is, depending on who you believe. So because it was never verified, I was like, well, it could just be like a gimmicky type story. But remember in the beginning of this video where I was kind of going over the satanic rituals or dark rituals that kind of took place there? Even though those are not verified technically, I felt so drawn to this area. Like, I didn't want to leave. And I don't know if satanic rituals or dark rituals actually did take place there or not. I don't know. But I do know that the feeling I had down there was insane. So, stepping off the stairs, the whole way down the stairs, I didn't feel anything. I felt nothing. And there are no lights down there. It's complete pitch black. So you can't see anything except for, like, on the wall, there's these little sconces that are very, very dim. And they just kind of light your way, like, as you're walking down through the basement. It kind of guides you. But you really can't see anything. And that was a little unnerving, I will say. But that's a natural thing to feel. So, besides those sconces, I couldn't really see anything other than where I was walking. I could kind of make out the pentagram in the middle of the floor, but like I said, it was dark. So it wasn't super clear to me until I was like right up on it. Going down the steps, I felt nothing, like I said. And then as I got closer to like the bottom of the stairs and like was about to step off onto the basement floor, I felt this intense feeling of like existential dread and like panic, I guess. But it only lasted for a second. When my feet hit the floor, it went away completely. I didn't feel the need to get out, although when I was watching other people come out, because there were a couple of other RIPs on my tour, it was like they could not wait to get out of there. But for me, I had none of that feeling. I wanted to stay. I felt like home. It was weird. Walking through, I felt like I was kind of pulled to where that pentagram was in the middle of the floor. And I wish I could access the cameras from down there, because Zach records everything. Everything is recorded there. And I wish I could access that, because I'm sure you would be able to see me like touching the walls and like petting them. It was bizarre. I know, weird thing to do, but I just felt the need to pet the walls. And so I did. And as I was doing that, part of me realized, like, oh, this isn't good. I need to get out of here. But like, I didn't want to leave. So my conscious, smart self was like, get out, like, go. And the rest of me was like, no, this is the best place ever. So yeah, it was bizarre. It was a weird calling type of feeling. Yeah. So then I did eventually force myself to leave, because I wasn't going to live in the basement at Zach's museum, but I really wanted to. And to this day, I still have dreams about wanting to go back, like dreams of me being there and being so content. And it is the weirdest thing I've really experienced, in such a weird way, I guess. I don't know how to explain that properly, but it was weird. Okay. So Lugosi's mirror. I did feel like there was like a darkness around that mirror, but I didn't see anything when I looked in it. It is said that when you look into this mirror, you'll see demons, or you'll see like dark things coming for you. For me, I didn't experience that at all. It's supposed to curse you if you look into it. So of course I did look into it. I didn't feel like cursed, I guess. But I did feel like a weird energy around it. I didn't see anything though. And then later down the hall from the mirror is Capone's study. So Al Capone, obviously notorious gangster. I could not find any pictures of the actual study at the museum, so I just threw in a picture of Capone. But that room, I felt nothing. Ed Gein's room. So Ed Gein is, he's a serial killer, and technically, I don't even know how he's classified as a serial killer, because he didn't really kill that many people. He only killed 2 women, and two that should not have died. Please don't misunderstand me, but I think it was 2. I could be wrong. I don't know. But Ed Gein is who the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is based after. Loosely based after. He was a kind of weird guy. So he was a little bit slow learner. He wasn't all there. And obviously, but then he started, after his mom died, he started robbing graves and taking these corpses of these women. And when he couldn't do that, he killed 2. So you might be asking yourself why he would do something like this. Well, because he wanted their skin. He wanted their body parts. He wanted their... Ugh, it creeps me out just thinking about it. So he wanted their skin and their body parts because he used them for home furnishings. He made a lamp out of skin. He drank from skulls. He made a skin suit. Yes, he did. He made a skin suit. It was gross. if you get a chance, look up the crime scene pictures and the pictures from the evidence. It's messed up. Anyway, that cauldron in my picture is his actual cauldron, the one that he would suspend the 2 women that he murdered. He suspended them above that cauldron to drain their blood and organs. And there it sits in Zach's Haunted Museum. In that room, there is also on the wall a framed canvas of human skin that has been like leathered. So yeah, it was sick. But whoever donated it to the museum, good on you. Thank you for that. So I felt like the leather didn't really have any feeling to me at all, but the cauldron kind of did. It just kind of, it felt confused. It felt really confused. Like, I don't know if it was one of the victims that maybe, couldn't quite understand what was happening to her, or if it was Dean himself that I was picking up on, but it was an off-putting confusion. Like, it took me a minute to recover from that. I didn't know what was going on really. And so then when like everybody was leaving the room, I just kind of stood there and looked like an idiot, I'm sure. But it took me a second to regain my mental faculties. The seance room, I didn't go in. We just walked past it as far as I recall. So I don't really have much on that. The circus room and the fun house. So as you are walking through, you kind of go through all these like little circus exhibits or whatever, and I hate the circus. I hate that. I hate the clowns. I hate all of it. I don't like it. So it was creepy and off-putting, and I did not like any of that. But I powered through. And nothing really got me too bad up until the gypsy wagon. That was where I started to feel things. So the whole circus area is kind of gimmicky. Now, I don't like clowns anyway, so I didn't like it. But it's meant to, be like a haunted house, I guess. Yeah. I didn't like it. I did not love it. It was very gimmicky. So at the end of that area, you meet Josh Shaw, and he was lovely. He was a wonderful man. So he, while I was there, stuck a drill in his nose. Yeah, an actual drill in his nasal cavity and spun it. It was amazing. Like, seriously, one of the coolest guys I've ever met in my life. He was super nice. But he, in these pictures, is standing in front of a gypsy wagon, which is against one of the walls. And as part of my RIP access, I was able to go into the gypsy wagon. And there's a window inside, and I could not find pictures of this. There's a window that's open to this like crawl space under these stairs. And as you like stick your head out of it, I did not like it. It didn't feel good. It felt absolutely horrendous. Like super, super dark feeling under there. And I couldn't explain it. It wasn't like it was attached to anything. It was like it was its own conscious thing. And that made me really uncomfortable. But it didn't mess with me, so we're all good. And then, like I said, it's up against a wall that has some stairs that go up and around behind it. So when you go up those stairs, it brings you to the Berdella room. And Bob Berdella is the Kansas City Butcher. If you don't know his story or like why this is a very fascinating piece of true crime, you really should look it up. It's impactful. He was legit evil incarnate. I did not like him. I say him like, all right, you need more context. So as you walk in, there's all these things that he used to use to torture these poor boys that he ended up killing. And when you walk in, there's this big bed in the room, and it is soaked in blood stains. Like, yeah, it's not a pleasant, it's not a pleasant room. It felt oppressive. It felt dark. It felt heavy. And then as I was standing there, I kind of got this feeling that some, I don't want to misstate this because it'll sound like I'm a crazy person if I say it the wrong way. It had such mixed emotions in that room. So the main feeling I got was the hate, the anger, the dark kind of component. But there were also mixed feelings in that. So there was a sense of intense pain and immense sadness and profound fear. Rage, hate kind of filled the air like a fog. And that's why I felt that first, I think, because it hit me like a ton of bricks when I walked in the room. And as we were getting ready to leave, I had this like chaotic energy around me, and I had this feeling like somebody was watching me with such disdain and such hatred and just disapproval, complete disapproval. And I feel like that was associated with Bob. He hid for a lot of years, and he hid his victims. He hid himself, who he truly was, his crimes. He hid all of that. And I feel like because I kind of saw through it, maybe that's why he hated me so much. But it was not a good feeling. I did not like that room. Okay. I think I'm dying. Oh, I'm so sorry. I apologize for that. Oh. I feel very sick right now. Ugh. He did not like me, clearly. So, moving on, because I'm done with this. I'm going to skip the Dybbuk box slide until the last because, oh my goodness. I am so sorry. I do not know what is wrong with me right now. Whew. I'm going to skip the Dybbuk box until the very end. Peggy the doll. So, I am so sorry. I cannot get it together here. The Dybbuk box, initially while I was in there, I didn't feel anything. And I was honestly really disappointed about that. But we will get to why I am no longer disappointed about that at the end. Sorry. So next to the room with the Dybbuk box is Peggy the doll's room. Peggy the doll. Sorry. We had to form a single file line before we even stepped foot in that room. And you were like, the tour guide warned us before we ever even opened the door that you needed to say hello and goodbye to Peggy. Otherwise, she will see that as a sign of disrespect. Now, when Peggy feels disrespected, Peggy has a problem with getting revenge on people that disrespect her. So she has caused 80 people to faint or have chest pains, or there have been a couple of people that have actually had heart attacks from Peggy. I don't know if this is accurate as far as they had no other medical issues or whatever, but Peggy definitely gives off a weird energy. So for me, I did my best to respect Peggy. I did not want her to feel like I was disrespectful at all. I felt really uncomfortable in that room, and it was a really overpowering feeling. So, like, I didn't want her to be displeased with me, so I was like, hi, Peggy, and bye, Peggy, and I felt like an idiot, but she didn't follow me home, and I did not incur her wrath, so we're all good on that. The witch's head I could not find photos of. That room I did not want to be in. I did not stay there long. I felt extremely confused, and I couldn't focus. I had, like, brain fog of the worst sort. And it felt like, so if somebody screams at you, like, get out, that's kind of what it felt like. That's the feeling that I felt in that room. I did not like that room. It felt like whoever this person's head in this box, whoever it was extremely annoyed with being put on display. It felt like whoever it was just pissed. So, the Devil's Rocking Chair. Now, for this one, I'm going to play a video or a audio clip because it is one of the creepiest clips I've heard in a long time. But let's give you some backstory here. So, the Devil's Rocking Chair is a chair that belonged to the Glassel family. Oops. Now I can't find my tab. There it is. So, it was a really weird experience for me. And because of the RIP access, I was able to go around the enclosure that they keep it in and go back behind it, or the roped off area, or whatever it is. I don't remember, if it was a wall or, I know there's a wall, but I went past the wall. And I don't really remember a whole lot about how the room was set up, but that chair gave me nightmares. Like, I just did not like it. It felt bad to me. But the chair is really nice itself. So the Glatzel family. If you've seen the Conjuring movie, The Devil Made Me Do It, or have read about the cases of like Ed and Lorraine Warren, this is one of those cases. So this will make sense to you. This chair is the chair that the Glatzel family had, and both Lorraine and David, the little boy that was possessed, both of them had seen what they called the beast rocking in this chair. I did not see the beast, unfortunately. So, but that is actually the chair that David Glatzel was sitting in during his exorcism. The demon apparently jumped ship and jumped out of David and into a boy named Arnie. And Arnie, who I believe was, I don't remember if he was dating one of the sisters or how he was involved, but he was involved somehow. He was there. So this demon jumps ship and hops a ride with Arnie. And Arnie eventually ended up murdering his landlord shortly after that. So when Arnie was caught, because, you know, people that kill people tend to get caught, when they caught him, he said basically that the devil made him do it. He thought that he was possessed, and Ed and Lorraine Warren both advocated for him on this. They backed him. So I'm going to play the clip that I have of David Glatzel's exorcism. I think that's a little bit too quiet. Hang on. So, yeah, pretty discomforting. Now, I didn't feel much of anything with the Titanic stuff, but I did kind of feel, I guess, betrayal. That's the best way I can really describe it. Well, it wasn't really even betrayal. It was just kind of like a, oh darn type of feeling in the Natalie Wood area. So if you don't know who Natalie Wood is, definitely look her up. She was an actress, and her story is really sad. And I believe they reopened the case because police suspected her husband had murdered her. And actually Christopher Walken was on that boat. But anyway, I won't get into that. That's a whole true crime thing that if you want to look into it, go for it. If not, that's cool too. I didn't really feel a whole ton in there. But I did feel like, I felt like Natalie's, spirit, not really her spirit, but like I felt a sense of her there. And she felt pretty good, but like, oh darn, you know, like that's really all I kept getting. So Lee Shapiro and the Machine. Now this is a controversial exhibit at the museum because there is absolutely very little to validate anything that is said in this exhibit. So I don't know what the truth is, but I do know that the pictures are pretty creepy. Lee Shapiro was said to be a brilliant woman who invented this machine so that she could communicate with the other side. And in doing this, she accidentally stumbled upon a demonic force that inevitably killed her, according to the story. So during this 1 day, 24-hour period, she's like using this machine and interacting and all of that. And she starts taking these notes, which Zach has at the museum, and reading them is just heartbreaking. It's talking about how she's never going to be free and she's going to die. There's nothing she can do to stop it. She isn't even going to get to cross over. She's not going to go anywhere but the last circle of hell, basically. And whether this was accurate and this actually happened, or if it was just Lee Shapiro's mind fading and kind of her having a mental break, it was really, it was heart-wrenching. It was hard to imagine that woman in her last moments being so scared. She had to have been terrified. She took several Polaroid pictures as she was dying, I guess, and they are on display at the museum. But in the very last one, there is a creepy shadow in it, and it's ripped. So it looks like as she pulled it from the Polaroid camera, something had pulled it from her hand, is how it looked on like the way everything was found. But I don't know. I didn't really feel anything there at all. It was a good story though. So, Demon House. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you go watch the documentary about this. It is on Prime. And this documentary was done, I don't even know how long ago now. It probably wasn't even 10 years ago, not even. But it was crazy. So, Zach Bagans bought this house in Indiana, sight unseen, didn't know anything about it other than that it was purportedly the most haunted place that, you know, these people had ever experienced. So he buys it and he goes there. And during this filming of this documentary and his experience through this whole thing, he finds out some really crazy stuff. I'm not going to spoil it, because if you do go watch it, which I think you should, it was really compelling for me. But you kind of get to figure out what happens throughout this documentary. Now, this place, the Demon House in Indiana, he ended up because it was such a difficult experience for him, he ended up destroying the house. Like, it's not there anymore. And he took certain artifacts and objects and the staircase from that house, and he put it into the museum. So I know I had better notes on this, but I can't find them now. I don't care. Demon House was messed up. It was really messed up. And at some point, this house got a bad reputation because the family that lived there had children. And one of those children ended up becoming oppressed, I guess would be the proper word, because I don't think it was a full-on possession. But this child wound up in a hospital, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong, and CPS ended up showing up because, they were suspicious about the circumstances, and the child was like, no, like it's something in the house, and nobody could figure it out. So this CPS worker and this nurse are in this room with this child, where there's firsthand accounts saying that this child walked up the wall backwards. And I cannot imagine. I would have quit my damn job. I'd have been out of there. Peace, I'm gone. I am not sticking around for some demons. No, thank you. But evidently, that's what got the whole story started. And so the Ammon family did inevitably move out. They left the house. And that was when Zach bought it. It was sitting empty when he bought it. And just such a good documentary. You really should go watch it. Like I said, it's on Amazon. But yeah, that was a creepy part of the tour. It was almost like I didn't see a shadow figure, but I felt it. I felt that shadowy type of presence. It was weird. I did expect that because Demon House I'd seen it before I went, so I knew what it was famous for. The Dybbuk box. Okay, so this frickin' box, that frickin' box is the most haunted object purportedly in the world. So I was most excited to see this when I went to the museum. It was on my bucket list. And when I got there, I felt nothing. And I was so heartbroken. I was like, man, I came all this way. I really wanted to see this stupid box, and there's nothing that I feel with it, right? It was really, really frustrating and disappointing. So I was like, whatever, just I'll get over it, right? So the Dybbuk box, the backstory of this box is it was created by a Holocaust survivor. And in creating it, she essentially trapped a Dybbuk, which is like a demonic presence or a demonic being. It's full of pain and hate and anger and sadness and all the terrible things of the world. So this Dybbuk becomes its own sentient force. She locks it away in this box and is the keeper of said box until she dies. Well, when she dies, she requests to have it buried with her, but they would not bury it with her because she was Jewish, and it was, I guess, a no-no for things like that to be buried with them. I don't really know, but the box wasn't buried with her. Either way, it wasn't. And then her granddaughter or her grandson or somebody down the line had an estate sale. Well, the Dybbuk box ended up in the estate sale. This guy bought it and gifted it to his mother, who then had a stroke When she opened it, they automatically get rid of this box. After speaking to the granddaughter, they kind of figured out the history behind it, and then they got rid of this box. So this box has tons of horror stories attached to it. Like, usually anybody that comes into contact with it is screwed. Post Malone actually did an overnight investigation with Zach at the museum, and they messed with the box, and he swore he was cursed, and he did almost die after that. So the Dybbuk box is like no bueno, but I was really excited about it. And so when I got there and it felt completely empty, it broke my heart. And I was thinking, well, okay, so maybe it's because they've got it lined with salt and, sage in the air, and, they really have done everything that they can to contain what's in this box. So maybe that subdued it, right? So I was just really upset and sad about it. But then when I went home or back to the hotel, that night I had the worst nightmares of this lady chasing me and like grabbing at me. And it didn't make sense to me at the time. But when I dug a little deeper, I found out that apparently this is a common occurrence with the Dybbuk box. You will have these dreams of this old lady attacking you. And I didn't know that at the time, but I did. I had those dreams. I still have those dreams. To this day, I'm having those dreams. They're not as prevalent as they were like right when I left, because I had them nightly for a minute there. But then over the last couple of weeks, I've kind of had them less. It was the creepiest old lady too, like in my dream. It was so freaky. She had like these lengthy fingers, and like, it was gross. It was gross. It was nightmares, legitimate nightmares. So here are my pictures from my personal experience, and it was wonderful. I had a really great time. Even though I didn't feel a lot of energy throughout the whole museum, there were certain places where I really felt there was something there. Whether it was good or bad, like the Natalie Wood room, I felt like that was an overall good experience. That was a good feeling. It was very genuine. I didn't expect for it to be, but it was a great experience. I highly recommend it. It was a blast. And that's my conclusion. So I did have a really good time talking about this, and I hope that I get to someday go back for a flashlight night tour, because they are doing those now, where you get to basically run the whole building by yourself with a flashlight in the dark. I really want to go. So someday I'm going to do that. But until then, stay magical, my friends. Thank you for joining me.